Hey there. So, when I was a product manager, I would often be thinking about retention and stickiness. And basically, in every SaaS product analytics solution I've had, and I don't know, maybe things have changed since then, but I've always had access to something that looks kind of like this. This is obviously just a mock-up, but it shows you perhaps your weeks or months or days, however you think about it, and then it will show you, again, depending on how you sliced it, will show you your retention on week one, week two, week three, week four. And then maybe you have like a chart here that shows you sort of that retention curve over time. And of course, you can look at this by newly activated users or recurring users. But the gist of it being that you are basically looking across different cohorts at how retention or how the retention sort of curve and behavior across these different cohorts. So I found this helpful to kind of understand, like, okay, when does drop off typically happen? Like, what's our sort of final retention rate? And that's great. But when I think as a product manager of like ongoing stickiness and retention, if one of the metrics I care about, which is a big if, and it's not the case for every product out there, but if the metric that you care about is ongoing stickiness for existing customers, and your customers or users may be coming in on a somewhat regular basis, but not fully regular, then the question you may be asking might be a little bit different. It's like, how many of my users on any given week are coming back within a certain time window? At least that's how my mind works. And so, to me, something like that looks much more like this, where for any given week, I want to know what percent of users have were present in the last, say 3 weeks, for example. And I can come in here. I could obviously go and tweak this and so on and so forth. Now, just of course, this is all fully dummy data that I'm showing you here. So these are not real numbers. These would be incredible retention rates and numbers. But the point being that the way I think about it is I want to know on this week, like, or generally over time, are we seeing more users coming back on a more regular basis? And again, I might expect my users to come on back on a daily basis, or I might expect them to come back on a weekly basis or monthly. It really just kind of depends. And I haven't found, at least out of the box, any product analytics solutions that offer this view. And actually, if you have your events in a data warehouse, then a SQL query can solve this problem for you fairly easily. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So to get this, a chart, again, just highlighting here that we have our weeks. So these are calendar weeks. You can do this by day, month, week, whatever you want. We're looking at how many users on this week were also present in the last, say, 3 weeks. So to do that, again, this is all just dummy data, keep that in mind, but we have some event data here. We have our user ID, unique user ID. We have our event date, just a timestamp, and the event ID. We're just looking at a single event, for example. And the query will look something like this. It's not incredibly complex, and the crux of the query is actually this here, where really what we're doing is we're looking at the past events, and we're looking at which users were present within a certain past interval. So there's just a CTE here to grab the weekly events, and then effectively we're going and looking at which users have had an event in a past select window here. And then we go and join this to do a calculation down in this final statement here, where we are now calculating the total number of users. The total number of users with a past event, again, is computed in a past events CTE here. And then, of course, the percentage. And so when you do that calculation, you end up with total users for a given week. Of those users, how many were present within that select window, and then what percentage does that represent? And of course, you can go and then plot that. So I find this incredibly helpful. Really helps me understand, again, for existing customers and users, like, are we overall building a more sticky product? And there are some product analytics solutions out there that allow you to actually input a SQL query. You may have to wrestle with this query just a little bit if that's the case, because some of your properties for the event, like for example, your user ID may be embedded in like a JSON, properties JSON or something like that. So you may need to manipulate this a little bit. Also, not all, I think, product analytics solutions support, and their SQL interface support CTEs. But again, the idea generally being you can use the AI to kind of manipulate that for you. The idea being that with a query, you should be able to get this kind of analysis. Hope you found this helpful. Would love any feedback or questions as always. And thanks for listening.